Maraming salamat po for this opportunity to speak before this committee. There is no doubt in my mind that former President Rodrigo Duterte is the mastermind, as he was the instigator and inducer of the drug war killings. For his crimes against humanity, both as Davao City mayor and Philippine president, Duterte should be prosecuted and convicted by the International Criminal Court and spend the remainder of his life in prison. I quote that no matter the moral correctness of the zeal against the drug menace, it can never be a moral justification for summary executions. End of quote. Good afternoon, Chairperson Benvenido Abante Jr. and honorable members of the House Committee on Human Rights. Thank you for inviting me in this proceedings. Good afternoon also to my fellow resource persons. I'd like to begin by saying that there is no doubt in my mind that former President Rodrigo Duterte is the mastermind, as he was the instigator and inducer of the drug war killings. The drug war was implemented as an official Duterte program of government when he assumed office as president. This is undeniable, since Oplan Double Barrel is a well-documented official PNP operation plan. The consequent extrajudicial killings were also intentionally and deliberately carried out as part and parcel of Oplan Double Barrel upon Duterte's orders as president and chief executive from 2016 to 2022. These killings constitute a systematic attack on civilians and considered as a crime against humanity under international humanitarian law. For his crimes against humanity, both as Davao City mayor and Philippine president, Duterte should be prosecuted and convicted by the International Criminal Court and spend the remainder of his life in prison. We all know that there is an ongoing ICC investigation. Any investigation of the past administration's drug war necessarily has to go back to the origins and history of the Davao Death Squad from its inception in 1988 up to 2016. This is because the 2016 to 2022 drug war is a mere offshoot of the DDS experience in Davao. What basically happened was that the systematic extrajudicial killings perpetrated by then Mayor Duterte and the PNP of Davao, specifically the Heinous Crimes Section of the Death Investigation Division of the Davao City Police Office, or HCS-DID DCPO, from 1988 to 2016 were simply replicated at the national level when President Duterte assumed the presidency and launched a national drug war. The centerpiece of the national drug war was modeled after the DDS system and operations of involving active PNP personnel in vigilante killings. They were organized into cell units of assassination squads led by active policemen from each police station. They were put in charge of their corresponding civilian hitmen. In the national drug war, this was replicated by appointing certain DDS policemen from Davao to depressed urban areas in Metro Manila and other cities in the country. They were transplanted from Davao to Metro Manila to organize what can only be characterized as another version or local DDS chapters in every city for purposes of carrying out the systematic identification of targets and their summary execution either in non-laban operations or by riding in tandem vigilantes. However, unlike in Davao, where there was no shortage of civilian hitmen recruited either from rebel returnees or small-scale miners from Diwalwal, the riding in tandem vigilantes in the national death squads, perhaps not all, are simply policemen in plain clothes. Some of them may be civilians, but recruited, coordinated with, and paid by the police to kill. During the 2009 CHR investigation on the DDS, the names of Edgar Matobato and Arturo Las Cañas already came out and were identified as members of the DDS, together with the other members of the Heinous Crime Section of the DCPO. If you will remember, I was the one who presented Matobato in the Senate drug war inquiry in August 2016. Unfortunately, the House then did not yet have its counterpart inquiry on the drug war then. As far as I know, this is the first one. The House was then busy with the inquiry on the Bilibid drug trade and on my personal life. After I presented Matobato, the members of the Heinous Crime Section of the DCPO were summoned to the Senate hearing for his identification, for Matobato's identification. He did not have to identify each one of them because every single one of them admitted that Matubato could identify them, including Arturo Las Cañas. Because I presented Matubato in the Senate inquiry, and I think you know this, I was removed as chairperson of the Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights. I was already arrested and detained as a result of the House inquiry on the Bilibid drug trade when Arturo Las Cañas came out and admitted being the operations head of the DDS and pointed to Duterte as the mastermind in the extrajudicial killings perpetrated by the DDS in Davao. He eventually testified at the Senate, but his testimony was dismissed as being unreliable. The same way Matubato's testimony was dismissed by the Senate Justice Committee after Senator Gordon took over as chair. As far as I know, Las Cañas is one of the major witnesses of the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, or the OTP-ICC, in the case against Duterte and other high officials of the Duterte administration for crimes against humanity. Recently, we heard it on the news, the Senator Sonny Trillanes revealed an ICC document identifying now Senator Bato de la Rosa, former PNP Chief Oscar Albayade, former CIDD Chief Romeo Caramat Jr., former PNP Chief Intelligence Officer Eleazar Mata, and former NAPOLCON Commissioner Edilberto Leonardo as additional suspects in the ICC investigation. Compared to the ICC investigation of the drug war killings by the local authorities led by the DOJ has barely scratched the surface. And I think you also know this, it was disclosed in an earlier hearing that in its 2017 year-end accomplishment report, Malacanang claimed 3,967 killed in non-laban operations and 16,355 vigilante killings for a total of 20,332. That is for the period of July 1, 2016 to November 27, 2017 alone. Note that Malacanang under Duterte also considered the 16,355 vigilante killings as accomplishments in its drug war. Malacanang and even the PNP ceased to release data on those killed in vigilante operations and categorized as homicides under investigation from 2018 to 2022. We can only assume, going by the 2016-2017 data, that vigilante killings every year numbered in the thousands, aside from the official numbers released for those killed in non-laban operations. Having said that, out of thousands of killings committed in the drug war, the DOJ has only prioritized and investigated 52 cases. According to a recent Rappler report dated July 22, 2024, 32 of the 52 cases were closed without filing a criminal complaint. Of the cases filed in court, there was only one conviction and even one acquittal, leaving only 3 under trial. 8 cases were filed before the public prosecutors, and 7 are still undergoing reinvestigation. We must note, though, that those figures or those convictions do not include yet the earlier cases of Kian de los Santos, Carl Arnaiz, and Reynaldo de Guzman, which all resulted also in the conviction of their policemen killers. The one conviction in the 52 DOJ cases I mentioned earlier and reported by Rappler is that of the father and son, Luis and Gabriel Bonifacio. That's the latest conviction. So actually there are just 3 convictions involving 5 victims. This is the status of the investigation and prosecution of more than 20,000 drug war killings from 2016 to 2022. Out of more than 20,000 killed in police and vigilante operations, only 16 cases were filed with the public prosecutors and the courts, or roughly 0.08%. This is based on the conservative estimate of 20,000 killed that was already admitted by Malacanang under Duterte in its 2017 report. This does not yet include those killed from 2018 to 2022. As far as I know, the DOJ has no pronouncement on whether it will conduct further investigations of the remaining 99.92% of drug war killings. We also do not see, everybody knows that any investigation by any domestic authority of PNP higher-ups, and let alone of the former president himself. From this summation, in conclusion, we can conclude that the investigation and prosecution of the drug war killings by local authorities is practically non-existent. There is no indication also, I must say this, that the Marcos government will launch a large-scale effort anytime soon to go after the perpetrators, let alone the masterminds of the drug war killings. But that's why you cannot blame me if I say that we are actually better off waiting for the results of the ICC's OTP investigation, which is light years ahead of our local investigation, at least as regards the accountability of the high-ranking officials. And I appreciate the efforts of this committee. At least we now have that, this proceedings. Although, you know, I must say also that it's rather late, although better late than never. Now, we fervently await, of course, for the application by the OTP and issuance by the ICC pre-trial chamber of warrants of arrest anytime, hopefully within the year. I close by also citing a quote, and this is from the position paper of the CBCP, when I was still the chair of the Senate committee, and they submitted, I quote, that no matter the moral correctness of the zeal against the drug menace, it can never be a moral justification for summary executions. End of quote. That is from the CBCP. Maraming salamat po for this opportunity to speak before this committee.
Thank you, Senator De Lima.
Umani naman ito ng iba't ibang reaksyon mula sa ating mga netizens. Ayon kay Client Siloga, because of war on drugs naging peaceful yung place namin. Effective ang war on drugs. Pahayag naman ni Alan Limoran, tama lang naman na walisin sa lipunan ang mga drug addict at drug pusher, isama na rin ang mga protector, marami na kayong nasisirang buhay. At ito naman ang saloobin mula sa ating kababayan na si Jesus Lazado, this woman must stop talking. She is a victim of her own neglect to correct everything in the judicial system in her capacity as Senator at Justice Secretary. If she did neglect her duties, this ICC thing is unnecessary. Mga kababayan, feel free to comment below para maglabas ng saloobin sa balitang ito.